Broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for High Velocity Radio.
Lee Cantor here, another episode of High Velocity Radio, and this is going to be a good one. Today we have with us Samuel Opon. Welcome, Samuel.
Thank you very much.
I'm excited to learn what you're up to. Share a little bit about your work. You're a busy guy doing a lot of interesting things.
Before I talk to you, I'm going to say that I'm in the middle of packing up and moving to a new place. But other than that, I've been really busy finishing up my master's degree program at Concordia University in Chicago. I'm also going there to further a career in broadcasting, in sports broadcasting, but also having a career outside of it in business. So like consulting, training, public speaking, and coaching.
So now talk about kind of your journey. You have an interesting background.
So basically when I was born, I was literally separate from my parents, my biological parents, and I was in a hospital going through chemotherapy for about 2 years, maybe 6 months or something like that. For having malaria, for having non-Hodgkin lymphoma, which is not fun. And I was going there. My mom had to make a decision to leave me behind. She couldn't be there. And basically it became like a whole big like press. It became like a huge thing. And for some reason, went through the process, got chemotherapy finished, and then it placed me with like step parents. I call them step parents because they became like my legal guardian until like my parents went through the process, going to the courtroom and becoming legal guardians until they proved that they get big income in the US because they went through a program. So my parents came to America with the lottery.
So then when you grew up, and you went through this hardship, and what kind of drew you to the business world?
As I was coming, I got into the acting business, and during that time, I was doing Broadway, doing theater, a lot of theater work as a kid before I moved to the West Coast. And when I came to the West Coast, I met a person on the airplane, or it's like on the airplane. And they wanted me to connect with John Maxwell. So I didn't really know too much about John Maxwell at all. I had no idea who that man was in my entire life, to tell you the truth. And then they also wanted me to connect with Warren Buffett because they wanted me to make a career out of myself. They don't want me to sit there and do anything. They wanted me to make income. So got in contact with them, crossed paths with them when I was like 5, 6 years old. And started to train with them ever since. So I focused more on investing than I did in public speaking. Public speaking was not something that I wanted to do. I focused more on investing because it became a lot more of a better habit, and I like it. So got into that, and I'm still invested 20 years later. But for public speaking, same thing for John Maxwell. Met with him. Talked about his vision, talked about the impact and the future of public speaking. So that's how I got into the business, through him.
So now let's talk right now about the public speaking. So how do you develop a talk? How did you know what to talk about?
So we went through the process of writing down different type of topics that I can write about. I can talk about like Lead with Love. I can talk about teaching people how to invest. So Invest in 101, which is a course that I'm creating.
So now, how did you develop that kind of methodology about how to invest? Like this is for any stage investor or beginner investors?
Beginner investors. You got to start with the playbook. You got to know the playbook of investing before you become like a pro investor. You got to know the entire playbook of it.
All right. So then, in your talk, you go over kind of the basics of that.
Yes, but I also do that with my course.
So now, so the speaking is kind of an entree into the course.
Yes, but I also do like motivational speaking. I also do inspirational speaking. I also do business leadership. Like I'm very flexible.
And then does your client come to you and say, hey, can you do a talk on this subject? Or do you go to them and say, you know what, for your needs, I think I should be doing a leadership talk?
So when I did my first public speaking when I was 4 years old, I did it at a high school. They came to me. The second public speaking I did when I was 6 years old, 6 years old, they came to me and they wanted to teach them like leadership studies. And then the third one I did was around like 8 years old, and I did a little bit. It was more of like a host, but more like a panel discussion. But it talked about like they wanted me to talk about like transition from like going from Africa to the US.
Now, so part of your journey has been to actually invest in companies, right?
Yes.
So now, how did you get involved in that kind of side of the investment business? There's one thing to just invest in mutual funds, but you're actually taking positions on like startups and companies.
So they send referrals. So I created a website, my personal website, and they send me referrals. And they also contact me through LinkedIn. They also send me like other websites to do. And the first question I always ask myself is, what kind of career or what kind of like impact are they going to have in the next 5-10 years? That's the first questions I always ask myself. Is this something that is worthwhile and worth my money that I want to invest in?
So now, like what are you investing like thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars?
It varies. It varies. I can do $50. I can do $1,000. I do up to like 5,000.
And then how do you decide like, okay, this one I'm going to invest in, this one I'm going to pass on?
Because I always go through the safety net of going through the financial company to have them like scan everything. I think every single company that I always do is they go through a background work, because I need to know everything about the person. I need to know everything about the business.
And then what are some like red flags where you'll be like, nope, this is out?
If they never invested before and they tell me that it's worth $25,000 per minimum.
So
that's when I know that if it's worth $25,000 and they have never raised funds for the company, then it's a red flag.
Now, what's something that gets you excited?
I always look at the trailblazers. I always look at the game changers, like something that we have never seen before. Think like Airbnb, like think about it, like DoorDash, like think about like those kind of companies. Like who would have thought that 10 years later, like those companies were going to have a bigger impact? Spotify, same thing. Who would think that millions of people around the world is going to listen to music right now during the pandemic?
So now, when you're hanging out with your friends, are they investors too, or is this something unusual amongst your friend group?
I don't bring it up because I don't want them to be thinking that I'm so much different than them. I always keep everything normal.
So for your friends, they just see you as just that you're just one of the gang there.
Right, the normal person talking to them, asking them what they're doing with their life. I never ask them about money. I never talk about it. I don't speak about it.
Now, do you help them with your coaching background? Are you able to coach them up and help them make better decisions?
I will. I mean, if they ask, I can do that.
But only if they ask. You're not kind of going out of your way to, hey, buddy, that's not, you should be doing less of that and more of this.
Right. Because once it comes into the fruition and the intuition and the mindset of they wanted to change the way that they're doing things, and they ask me like where they could go from here, then I'll point them the direction to me. But for now, I prefer them to enjoy their life, enjoy the freedom, enjoy what they're doing. But whatever you do, don't talk about money in front of me because it's not something that I do.
Now, how important is sports to you?
I mean, I grew up with it because when I was 4 or 5 years old, living in Alberta, New York, um, I went there and I was the only African American and Black person in my class. It was a private school, so I was able to develop my love for baseball before I love basketball.
So how do you see sports kind of playing into your career as you move forward?
I mean, it's gonna change. I like how it brings a different momentum. It brings a different way of how we learn because the game right now is about a game of inches. You know what I mean by game of interest? You have to pay strong details to every single play and every single action. Like if you need to slow down, just slow down, take deep breaths. You need to understand the game and become. I mean, sorry, you need to understand the game and become a student of the game. Understand the principle, understand the playbook of it. Just like the business, you need to know the playbook. You need to know the playbook of investing. Once you know that knowledge, you should be ready to go.
So you see a lot of similarities between sport and also business.
Right. And I always bring like information from each side and try to see like if there's some similarity and differences and see like where can I go from here.
Now, let's talk a little bit about your podcast that focuses on basketball.
No, it focuses on all sports.
All sports?
All sports.
But is it college and professional? Any type of sport?
Any sports, but I also talk about the issues. The one thing I don't talk about in my podcast is politics.
So you separate politics from sports.
Yes, because before I transitioned into the world of sports, I worked for the government. That's a long story right there.
So there was a time when you were considering politics?
No, no, no. They came to me in my school and offered me the opportunity to work for them.
And then you passed.
No, 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 no. They asked me some questions. I was like, what, like fourth grade? I was like probably like what, like 10, 11, 12 years old. I didn't have no idea what they were asking me because my English wasn't developed at that time.
Right.
I didn't speak English till I was like, I think like 11, 12 years old.
So you were doing some of your speaking before you fully were comfortable in English?
No, 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 no. I spoke English when I came to America, and then when I moved in with my biological parents, they wanted me to stop speaking English, so I had to speak a different language. And then when I transitioned from private school to public school, I had to either pick French or Spanish.
So now in your career, how do you see things going forward? It seems like the sky's the limit for you.
Right now I'm getting ready to do auditions for like TV shows and films and movies, but also down the road I hope to go back into Broadway. I'll say down the road, but in terms of business wise, I plan on starting right away once I finish my master's degree program.
Okay, so you still have a little ways to go from that to finish that?
No, I got 5-6 weeks left.
Oh, this is the end? This is the last semester for you?
Yes.
So exciting time.
Oh yeah, definitely. But it's gonna feel very weird. It's gonna feel very weird to not be in school at all, which I'm glad.
Right. Well, you're done with that stage, right? Well, I guess you'll always be a lifelong learner.
Right. Yeah, and that's the other thing too. Like, how far are you gonna be willing to learn? Because there's always something to learn each and every single day. Like the slower that you go, the easier it is for you to process the information and understand what's happening.
So now if somebody wants to connect with you to hire you as a speaker or maybe to kind of let you know what maybe they need an angel investor, what's the website to get a hold of you?
My personal website, which is www.samueloppong.com.
And that's SAMUELOPPONG.com?
Correct.
Well, Samuel, congratulations on all the success, and thank you for sharing your story today.
Thank you very much.
All right, this is Lee Cantor. We'll see you all next time on High Velocity Radio.